everybody. Oh, what is up with my necklaces? Happy Wednesday! Happy Wednesday evening live tutorial. That's so much better. Live tutorial, sort of. Come on, necklaces. Behave. You were fine like 5 minutes ago. But anyway, alright. Welcome to the Wednesday evening live tutorial stream where, as Mary already observed, we are going to make a big old not that stabby thing. That is the wrong stabby thing. That right there is incorrect stabby image. Bear with. That's tomorrow night's stabby thing. Tonight's stabby thing.
Very stabby week.
It is a very stabby week. I might have been mad at my mother when I was figuring out classes.
That would never happen here at the Beading Dream.
Right? Yes, I very much like that stabby image as well, and that's why we're doing that tomorrow night. So, okay, this is tonight's stabby thing. There. Okay, so I'm going to leave this up for a second. So this is our wire kilt pin. Tomorrow evening's is also not that. Wow, I just completely failed at so many things. And I thought I was doing so well. Okay, so now I have all my, alright, so now I think I have all my stabby images sorted out. So let's start this from the get-go. Okay, so tonight is this one. This is our wire kilt pin. This is extraordinarily easy to make. It's a really great way to showcase one really cool bead that you might have. And then tomorrow night's stabby project is this. This is the penannular style brooch. And we are going to go ahead and make this from scratch using 10 gauge bronze wire. So that means we're going to do all of the twisting, all the filing, all the hammering, everything. So that is tomorrow night's stabby class. It is not technically actually a torch class, but it's involved enough that I put it on Torch Thursday. And there may be some annealing, there shouldn't need to be, but if I screw up, I am going to have to use a torch, so I just went ahead and threw it on Thursday. Just for grins, and also, don't forget, we are not doing noon tutorials anymore, so I will not be on stream tomorrow at noon. Sorry to miss you all, but I will enjoy sleeping in for an extra hour. Ooh, pineapple and chili oil and rice and garlic and green onion. Okay, that actually sounds pretty damn good. So, I'm very excited about my homemade Cuban food that I get to eat when I get home. Or tomorrow for breakfast. You never know. So let's talk tools and... Ooh. Hey, Heather. Can you bring me a wire cutter that's not a Tronex?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let's talk tools and supplies. Thank you much. For this evening's tutorial.
Yeah, not for that.
Not for this, I know. You're going to need some 16 gauge bronze wire. So this is 16 gauge bronze. You could do this with sterling. You could do this, I mean, you people can do anything you want. But my recommendation for this project is something that is a little bit sturdier than copper. So you're talking brass, bronze, sterling, gold-filled. I've even done this with steel wire, which is kind of a pain to work with, but does give you a really cool result. Copper's a little soft. Now you can mitigate that a bit by hammering it, which we're not going to do on the bronze wire, but bronze, brass, and sterling are my faves for this. Especially, sterling's nice if you're trying to make somebody a really nice gift. I like this design a little bit better than your traditional kilt pin design, just because I think it has a little bit more panache, but the function is essentially the same. You have a sharpened end of wire that's going to go through your weave, and then it hooks into a little receptacle that you've made in the top here, which instead of being your traditional kind of safety pin look is just a nice open spiral. And like I said, I really like this design. It also has the benefit of being much easier to make than your traditional kilt pin design. Now, you also can purchase kilt pin blanks that have that kind of traditional safety pin top, and then they're just a really long stick that you just put your beads on and then roll around. But like I said, this is just a little bit more fun. This particular flavor of pin works best with an open weave, because obviously this is a very thick pin here. So thank you. Yes, I like. They're weird though. They're not shiny. They're rough. So I did actually, and I don't know if Corvus is on, but I actually did take one set of these nails and I coated them in resin. So we'll see, but they're holding up really well. Like I actually, this is the first set of cheap nails that I've had that I actually like as well as my expensive ones. Like they are solid. They have held up really well. I mean for the past few days. But
Do you have the snacks on?
what? Oh, you have the glitters. I have the glitters.
I love that.
The snacks have not come yet. The
Okay.
snacks are not gonna come until this week, I think.
I was gonna be so sad if you had snacks on and had not shown me.
No snacks. Yes. So I mean, we'll see. I'm gonna ride these for as long as they'll go for. Hi, Corvus, and then we'll try the resin nails next week or week after. Okay, so obviously you need something. You need to plan to use this on something that's got a fairly open weave, so that you're not damaging your clothing with this pin. We are gonna sharpen the end by ourselves. It's up to you how sharp you want to make that. And then of course the other thing that can sometimes be a little bit of a sticky wicket when you're doing a project like this is all one piece of wire, which means that all of your beads do need to actually have holes that are big enough to fit on 16 gauge wire, which is not going to be every bead. So tools and supplies. So yes, that was a really long kind of spiel, but 16 gauge wire. Ooh, it's not. It's absolutely not hard, Mary. It's incredibly simple. So 16 gauge wire and fun and beads. It's going to involve some sanding and or filing. That's the only part that's maybe a little bit difficult, but other than that, it's extremely easy. And I just have this selection of beads. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do yet, so they're just going to go in my tray. Okay, so we are going to start here. And then we're gonna go around here, add the beads, make the spring, and that way we can cut this end to a custom length because you want it to be just long enough to go into that receptacle with a little bit hanging over. If you've ever had a pin where it was just a little bit too short, kept popping out, that's not fun. But if it's too long, it's gonna be extremely annoying to wear. So that's why that's what I do last. So I'm going to start with my 16 gauge wire, and I'm going to cut about 10 inches. I always, for this, will cut more than I think I'm going to need because how much wire you need is going to be completely variable based on how long your beaded section is. And if you even wanted to be a little bit more, hedging your bets, you can even cut 11 or 12 inches. Especially if you're using bronze wire, we sell it for I think it's $1 or $1.50 a foot for this gauge, so it's really not that big of an investment as far as materials go. As far as tools go, I am going to need a wire cutter, which I did just use. Not your super nice fancy wire cutters, okay? You need something that you don't have to worry so much about ruining, and you're going to need a round nose and a chain nose. So we're going to start with this part right here, the little receptacle for our pin, and we're gonna do that with our round nose pliers. So I'm just gonna grab my pliers and I'm gonna grab right at the end of my wire and I'm gonna make a little J shape. So I'm just gonna take my pliers, make sure that you're grabbing flush at the end of the wire so that there's no wire sticking out the other side of your pliers, and you want to make it not too tiny but not too big. So I'm going about 1/4 of an inch down on my pliers and I'm just going to press against my finger. Remember, when you are trying to make a bend in heavy gauge wire, bracing it against your finger is a really important technique. And then I'm just going to rotate my pliers back and bring that over a little bit more so that I have my little hook right there. And now the way that this is going to go is like so. So I am going to be switching planes now as I continue. So what your instinct kind of is going to want to do is it's going to want to continue with that hook, and it's going to continue your spiral this way. That's not actually what you need to do. You're going to put your hook flat and then you're going to make your spiral this way. So it's like a whirlpool, and, you know, and your hook is kind of hooking up from the center of it. So that means I need I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers, and I'm just going to hang on to that hook with my chain nose, and I'm just going to pull my wire. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, now you can't see anything. Ah, there we go. Pull my wire around, like so. Okay, so see how now I have started to make that spiral? See how these are similar if I can get them both on camera? This one's a little bit bigger than this one was, so now that I've made my spiral, now that I've started it, I can hang on to that hook, and I can just use my chain nose as a base, and I can pull on that wire a little bit, and see how I'm just rolling my chain nose a little bit to kind of shrink that up to more of a reasonable size. And then I'm just going to move my pliers a little bit, and I'm going to continue this all the way around until I have one complete spiral that's going now back downwards. Alright, this one turned out a little bit bigger than my sample, but that's no big there. It's still got all of the same components and all the things that we need. So now I can add my beads. So once again, as many or as few beads as you want. I might make this one a little bit shorter on the beady section than this one, just because I found this really cool bead with a bird on it that I want to use, and it's not very big. So I do love having something that's small that's going to go on either end of this. And the main reason for that is if you've got something that's small and fits fairly tightly on your wire, what it's going to do is it's going to stop these beads from trying to go up over this curve. So I have these little brass beads that are just about perfect. So I'm going to put one of those on, and so see, it's just going to create a natural stop up there. Now that is kind of a Goldilocks bead, but if you can find a bead like that, it really makes this project a lot easier. Then let's see, I have some kind of interesting Nepalese beads that I was going to use. And should I bring, oh cool, and I think I'm going to do another one of my brass beads, and then my bird. So there's that. And then, oh, put the bird on right side up, Allison. There we go. So we have our focal bead, and then I'm just going to go ahead and mirror this pattern down the other side of this. And it's actually going to wind up being almost exactly the same length. Ah well. Okay, so now I have everything on there, and then I'm going to make this little springy bit. So what this, you can make, and I have seen kilt pins made with just a curve here. This gives you just a little bit more kind of spring tension, which helps this stay fastened. So incredibly, again, easy. You're going to do this with your round nose pliers. So the idea here is we're going to take this wire, and we're going to, right at the base of this bead, we're going to bring it around, there's this big spot. We're going to bring it around one full time and then back up to join with this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take our round nose, and this we're going to make a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go a little bit further down on my pliers, and I'm just going to start twisting that around, and my brace point is actually on my beads. So once I've gotten to this point where if I go any further, I'm going to start getting weird shapes from my, goodness gracious, from my jaws and my pliers hitting this wire here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spin them back and continue. Now once I've reached the point where this loop I'm making is tight up against that bead, then I can just put my pliers in there and use my fingers to bring that wire around and then up to make my pin shape. So it is important, just for things looking nice and clean, that this loop here is butted fairly firmly up against this bead here. Otherwise everything's just going to be kind of wobbly and it's just not going to look as nice or as professional. Now once again, tension is one of the things that helps keep this kilt pin closed. So you don't want to, what I like to do is I like to stop my bend where my wire is going out, so I essentially have a V shape here, because if you bring it again too far in, you're not going to have that tension, which is again what keeps this closed. So as far as, and you know, if you are okay with a little bow in your kilt pin like that, that's fine. If you want it straighter, you can straighten that out a bit. So now I'm going to go ahead and trim this. Once again, I want, and it's going to get just a scotch shorter when I'm sanding it, so I'm going to cut it just a hair long. Oh! I so almost shot that underneath my computer at Heather. That would have been intense.
It would have been intense. Like, in my face.
So what I've got here is about 1/4 of an inch of wire, and then what I want when I've finished is going to be closer to like 3/16 of wire. So now as far as making this sharp, so that it will pierce through fabric or flesh if you're, you know, if you're mad at somebody. I'm going to use my Dremel to kind of make this process a little easier for me. So I am going to actually power sand that, but you can do the same thing with a metal file and even an emery board. It's just going to take longer. So I will show you a little bit of both. I'm going to do the Dremel first though. Which means that I actually need to load the appropriate tool into the Dremel. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to show you how to do the power sanding. Okay, so got on a glove. I should have on actual eye protection, but you know, do as I say, not as I do. And I'm just going to turn that on. And the whole idea here is I'm just trying to make the end of this into a point. So I'm just going to take it against my Dremel at an angle and just go all the way around it. Just sanding that to a point. That's pretty good. You don't need it to be too stabby, especially if you're using it as like a shawl pin, you know, with something that's got a larger weave. It's just got to have enough point to poke through. If you were doing this by hand, you would do exactly the same thing, but you would use a hand file, and you would take your hand file against your metal at an angle and just push forward with your file, again rotating it around the wire as I did with the flex shaft. And if you're doing an emery board, same thing. I will say that if you use exclusively a file, I would, if you have some like 320 grit sandpaper, I would just do a little finish, just rotation of the sandpaper around the tip, just because the file can be a little bit darker. Or not darker, that's not even the word, that's not even close. Rougher is the word that I was looking for. I don't know how darker got in there. Mary wants to know how much longer do I think the hand file takes. I'm going to say probably, I mean, what did that take me? Like 30 to 60 seconds. I would say the hand file is probably closer to 2 to 5 minutes per piece. And then I am going to take the aforementioned hand file, and this right here is a little rough from where I originally cut my wire. So I'm just going to take a moment and I'm just going to blunt that down a bit. Just so that there's nothing stabby on this piece except for the part that we want to be stabby. Now, if at any point you or someone to whom you have gifted or sold this starts complaining that it's falling out from its little receptacle, all they have to do is just stretch this out gently, and that'll get your spring tension back, and then it should just fold nicely right up in there. And that's it. Ta-da! Extremely easy tutorial. Like, really stinking easy. But these make great gifts, especially if you happen to be a fiber artist. They're a really great add-on gift if you're making handmade fiber things for people. So yeah, there you go. One bird kilt pin. So that's it. That's it for tonight's tutorial. So this is Stabby tutorial number 1. Stabby tutorial number 2 is tomorrow night at 6 with our penannular brooch, which, by the way, we will be doing that whole thing from scratch, starting with bronze 10 gauge square wire. We had a somewhat snarky client come in today and look at the penannular brooch sample, and she's like, well, this is obviously so simple. Why would you have what's up with this? Why is there a class on this? Really, lady? She's like, I mean, obviously the wire's pre-twisted and everything, right? I'm like, no, not really, but you can just think what you want to think.
Yeah, it was something.
So, that was my snarky moment for the moment. I'm sure there will be more snarky moments later tonight, but for now, I think I need to go vacuum the store. I've got some cool stuff for you tonight. I've got another kind of random sale. We've got some trunk show strands that have not been shown on stream yet, and we're going to get ready to be sending that trunk show back. We have some 16-inch strands of cool stuff and a couple of things that are actually brand spanking new. So yeah, so we'll be back at around 7:30. We should be mostly on time since we're ending so early. So everyone who joined us for the tutorial, thank you so very much. That is true. I know. That was the other thing. It's like, you know, don't judge. If you think it's too easy for a tutorial, then don't take a tutorial on it. Like, you don't have, nobody's forcing you to participate. And then she was extra snarky when she found out the tutorial was online. I'm like, I don't know what to do with you. I really don't. So, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in for the tutorial. Don't forget, we'll be back on this channel, twitch.tv/Beading Dream in 30, actually more like 40, with a live merchandise sale featuring Heather and myself. So if you're going to be joining us for that sale, don't forget to mix yourself an indulgence. Eating something would probably be a good idea. Get comfy, get cozy, and get ready for some bead retail therapy. Thanks everyone so much, and we'll see you soon. Bye.